essential for fish health, but honestly, it gets totally misunderstood. We're talking about the journey from environmental bacteria to fish pathogens. Now, don't let those scientific terms throw you off. We're going to break down exactly what's going on in the water using super simple, easy to understand concepts. Whether you're running a massive aquaculture operation, keeping a home aquarium, or you're just a biology nerd like us, this is going to completely change how you look at a tank of water. Let's get right into it. Okay, let's dive into this. Are all bacteria actually bad for your fish? I mean, if you're like most folks, the second you hear the word bacteria, alarm bells go off, right? We're so conditioned to think of bacteria as an immediate threat, like an invader or a surefire sign of disease. We scrub our counters, we use antibacterial soak, and we just assume that if there's bacteria in the water with our fish, well, it's a crisis that has to be fixed right this second. But today we're going to look at the data and see exactly why that knee-jerk reaction is entirely backward when it comes to aquatic environments. To figure out why, we actually have to start with where bacteria live in the first place. Think about their natural habitats, the water, the sediment, biofilms, and yep, even right on the fish bodies themselves. You see, bacteria aren't these alien invaders that suddenly attack a pristine tank. Not at all. They are permanent, natural residents of the aquatic ecosystem. So instead of picturing your tank as a sterile swimming pool, think of it as a bustling, microscopic city, kind of like New York or Tokyo, just, way wetter. Bacteria are the citizens of the city. They belong in the water column, they belong deep in the gravel, and they naturally exist on the fish's skin and scales. Literally, you can't have an aquatic environment without them. And this brilliantly illustrates one of the most important habitats at our little microscopic city, the biofilm. You've probably felt this before without even realizing what it was. If you've ever touched a rock in a river or maybe the glass of an aquarium, and you felt that slightly slippery, slimy coating, boom, that's a biofilm. It's simply a thin, totally natural layer of microbes that naturally sticks to surfaces underwater. It isn't dirt in the traditional sense. It's actually a really complex neighborhood where millions of bacteria live, work, and interact every single day. Which brings us to a massive paradigm shift. We've got to completely dismantle the assumption that all bacteria are bad. The whole bacteria equals danger myth, it's just false. The source material is incredibly clear here. Not all bacteria are dangerous. In fact, an environment completely wiped clean of bacteria would be an absolute disaster for your fish. Because remember, bacteria are just the residents of our microscopic city, and they don't all have the same intentions. Just like in a real town, different residents have completely different jobs to do. So, if we take a quick census of this microscopic city, we actually find 4 distinct types of residents: beneficial, neutral, opportunistic, and pathogenic bacteria. By grouping them into these 4 categories, the whole complex world of aquatic microbiology becomes incredibly easy to understand. Each of these groups plays a very distinct role in the environment. Let's walk through exactly who they are. First up, we've got the beneficial bacteria. These are the microbes that have a genuinely helpful, positive effect on both the aquatic environment and the fish themselves. Think of them as the vital cleanup crew, or maybe the public utility workers of our microscopic city. Without them, the whole ecosystem would just collapse. They are constantly working behind the scenes, processing waste, and keeping the environment stable and healthy so your fish can thrive. They are absolutely essential. Next, we have the neutral bacteria. And as the name suggests, these are microbes that simply exist in the environment. They don't cause any harm to the fish, but they also don't provide any specific measurable benefits. They're basically the everyday, ordinary residents of the city, just hanging out, taking up a little space in the water or the biofilm, minding their own business. They are completely harmless bystanders. Then we have the opportunistic bacteria. Now, this group is super fascinating. Normally, these microbes are perfectly harmless. Under good conditions, they act exactly like those neutral bacteria we just talked about. But, and this is a huge but, they can cause disease if the fish becomes weak or stressed. They are opportunists. They're not actively hunting the fish down, but if they see a crack in the armor, just a moment of weakness, they'll jump right on it. They're literally just waiting for the right conditions to strike. Finally, we reach the pathogenic bacteria. These are the microbes that are specifically capable of causing disease in fish. These are the bad guys of the ecosystem. But here's the kicker, and I really want you to remember this point. They exist naturally in the environment, right alongside the beneficial and neutral bacteria. They live in the water, in the sediment, in those biofilms. Their mere presence is just a natural fact of the aquatic world.
Now, what's really interesting here is the direct contrast. On one hand, we have beneficial bacteria, which are actively helpful and entirely necessary for the ecosystem to work. And on the exact opposite side, we have pathogenic bacteria, which are totally capable of causing disease and harming the fish. Yet, they share the exact same microscopic city. They live in the exact same water and the exact same biofilms. It's this delicate, crazy balance of completely opposing forces hanging out in the very same space.
Which naturally leads us to the most important question of this entire explainer. If pathogens, the literal disease-causing bad guys, naturally exist in the water, the sediment, and the biofilms right now, why aren't fish just always sick? Why aren't they constantly falling victim to these pathogens? Seriously, if the bacteria are already there waiting, what is actually pulling the trigger?
So, the crucial point is this: the mere presence of bad bacteria is not enough to cause sickness all on its own. Disease isn't just a single random event, it's a process. It's a perfect storm. For a fish to actually get sick, it requires a very specific combination of factors to align perfectly. It's not just about the bacteria, it's about the entire situation surrounding the fish.
For this perfect storm to happen, three distinct factors must align: a weak fish, the presence of bacteria, and a bad environment. If you take away even one of these pillars, the storm totally falls apart, and the fish stays healthy. Let's break down each of these three factors closely.
Factor 1 is a weak fish. This is your vulnerable host. Now, a fish can become weak for a bunch of reasons. Maybe it hasn't been getting the right. This is exactly what they're waiting for. A strong, healthy fish can easily fend off most everyday microscopic threats, but a weak one, it just can't. Factor 2 is the presence of bacteria. The pathogen, or the opportunistic bacteria, has to actually be there in the ecosystem. As we established earlier, they live in the water, the sediment, and the biofilms. They are the spark. You can have a weak fish, sure, but if there's no pathogen present to take advantage of that weakness, the specific bacterial disease just won't happen. The biological agent literally has to be in the room, so to speak. And factor 3 is a bad environment. This is what tips the scales and completes that perfect storm. A bad environment could mean a lot of things: poor water quality, the wrong temperatures, low oxygen, or a huge buildup of waste. Basically, a bad environment acts as a massive stress multiplier. Not only does it directly make the fish weaker, checking off our first factor, but it also creates the ideal conditions where those pathogenic and opportunistic bacteria can multiply like crazy and completely overwhelm the fish's natural defenses. Let's look at the equation and see how this all builds together. Sickness equals a weak fish plus the presence of bacteria plus a bad environment. It's the intersection of these three specific things. The bacteria, they're really just one variable in the equation. You can't just point at a tank of water and say, oh, the bacteria made the fish sick. You really have to look at the whole picture. Was the fish already vulnerable? Was the environment actively degrading their health and empowering the pathogen? That specific combination is the true cause of disease. Which leaves us with this final, incredibly provocative thought. If we know for a fact that environmental bacteria, including the pathogens, are always going to be there as natural residents of the water, the sediment, and the biofilms, are you really managing the pathogen, or should you be managing the environment? You can never completely eliminate bacteria, and honestly, you shouldn't even want to because you destroy your beneficial cleanup crew in the process. True fish health isn't about sterile water. It's about breaking the equation. It's about maintaining a fantastic environment and keeping your fish strong so that even when the bad guys are present, that perfect storm never, ever happens. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this completely changes how you view the microscopic world.